At the family barbecue, I heard my greedy daughter-in-law say, "She's going to the nursing home as soon as we sell the farm." She had no idea I had already donated everything to my caregiver. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. The weather couldn't have been more perfect for my 66th birthday celebration. The late spring sun bathed my beloved farmhouse in golden light, and the sprawling oak trees provided just enough shade over the patio where my family had gathered. I'd insisted on hosting, despite my son Robert's protests that I should take it easy after my mild stroke 3 months ago. But this place? This 15-acre farm that Frank and I had poured our hearts into for over 40 years was where I felt most alive. From my rocking chair on the porch, I watched my grandchildren chasing each other around the yard, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Robert was at the grill, carefully flipping burgers while chatting with his brother-in-law. My daughter Sarah couldn't make it. She lived in Oregon with her family and had sent a beautiful bouquet and a heartfelt video message that morning. "Need anything, Michelle?" Anna asked softly, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. My caregiver of 2 years had become more like family than the actual family milling about my property. "I'm fine, dear. Why don't you get yourself something to eat?" I smiled up at her, grateful for her constant attention. Anna nodded and headed toward the food table, greeting everyone with her warm smile. I watched as Ellen, Robert's wife of 15 years, barely acknowledged her before turning back to her phone conversation. Ellen had always been polite but distant toward Anna, as if caring for an elderly woman was beneath her own social standing. I closed my eyes for a moment, enjoying the warmth of the sun on my face. My body might have been betraying me lately, but my mind remained sharp as ever. The doctors had assured me that with proper care and rehabilitation, I could continue living independently for years to come. The small walker beside my chair was merely a precaution now, a reminder to take things slowly. When I opened my eyes again, I noticed Ellen had disappeared from the gathering. Robert was still at the grill, laughing at something my nephew had said. Carefully, I rose from my chair, gripping my walker. I wanted to use the bathroom before cake was served, and I preferred doing it without announcing my basic bodily functions to everyone. The farmhouse was blissfully cool and quiet after the cheerful noise outside. I made my way slowly down the hallway, past the family photos that chronicled a lifetime of memories. Frank's smiling face looked back at me from dozens of frames, fishing at the pond with Robert, building the garden shed that still stood strong. After 30 years, dancing with me on our 40th anniversary just months before cancer took him. As I approached the guest bathroom, voices drifted from the small study across the hall. The door was ajar, and I recognized Ellen's impatient tone immediately. "I can't handle another year of this, Robert. Your mother is getting worse, not better." I froze, my hand tightening around my walker. "Keep your voice down," Robert hissed. "It's her birthday, for God's sake." "That's exactly my point," Ellen continued, her voice lower but no less intense. "She's 66 now. The stroke was a warning sign. Dr. Melton said there's a high chance she'll have another, possibly worse. We need to think practically." "What are you suggesting?" Robert sounded tired, defeated. "We need to sell this place. It's too much for her, too much for us to maintain. That retirement home in Westfield has openings. It's perfect timing." My heart began hammering in my chest. "She'll never agree to leave the farm," Robert said. Ellen's laugh was cold, dismissive. "She won't have a choice when her health deteriorates further. Better to do it now while she can still enjoy some quality of life at Cedar Grove." "Ellen, this is her home. No, it's a burden, a money pit, and we're the ones who'll be stuck caring for her and this property. As soon as we sell the farm, she goes to Cedar Grove where professionals can look after her. The money from this place could pay for years of care, plus finally give us some financial breathing room." I stood frozen in the hallway, my legs suddenly weak beneath me, She's going to fight this, Robert sighed. Then don't ask her, Ellen snapped. We need to make decisions for her now. It's for her own good. Besides, I've been looking at houses closer to the city. With what this property is worth, we could pay off our debts and have a substantial down payment. The walker rattled slightly. In my trembling hands. I backed away as quietly as my body would allow, tears blurring my vision. I made it back to the porch just as Anna was coming to look for me. Michelle? Are you okay? Her concerned eyes searched my face. I forced a smile. But my voice quavered despite my best efforts. Just a little tired, dear. But inside, my world was crumbling. My son and his wife weren't planning for my care. They were planning for my disposal. The farm wasn't a beloved family legacy to them. It was just a payday waiting to happen. And I was nothing but an inconvenient obstacle to their plans. As the party continued around me, with Robert bringing out my birthday cake and everyone singing, I felt a cold clarity settle over me. My own son had just broken my heart, but I wouldn't let him break my spirit. Not yet. Not without a fight. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Ellen's words echoing in my mind. As soon as we sell the farm, she goes to Cedar Grove. The casual cruelty of it stung like salt in an open wound. This farm wasn't just property. It was my life, my history, my heart. Frank and I had purchased these 15 acres back in 1978, when land outside the city was still affordable for a high school teacher and a civil engineer with modest savings. The farmhouse had been a disaster, leaking roof, sagging floors, outdated everything. But we saw beyond the disrepair to the possibilities. We'll fix it up room by room, Frank had promised, his arm around my waist as we stood in what would become our kitchen. It'll be our forever home, and it was. We raised our children here, Robert, born just a year after we moved in, and Sarah 3 years later. I could still see them running through the tall grass, helping Frank build the treehouse by the pond, learning to ride bikes on the gravel driveway. When Frank was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 6 years ago, his only request was to spend his final days at home. Not in some sterile hospital room, he'd insisted. I'd converted our sunroom into a bedroom so he could look out at his beloved garden. I'd cared for him myself, with help from hospice. He died peacefully here, holding my hand, watching the sunset through the windows he'd installed decades earlier. The sound of soft footsteps in the hallway pulled me from my thoughts. Anna was up early, as usual. I glanced at the clock, 5:30 a.m. With a sigh, I pushed myself up and reached for my robe. Sleep wasn't coming, and I could use some company. I found Anna in the kitchen, preparing her special cinnamon-spiced coffee. Her face brightened when she saw me. "You're up early, Michelle. Couldn't sleep?" I settled into my usual chair at the small kitchen table. "Too many thoughts," Anna nodded, understanding without needing details. That was one of the things I loved about her. She never pushed, never pried. She simply offered her steady presence. "Coffee? Please?" She placed a steaming mug in front of me, then busied herself preparing breakfast. I watched her efficient movements around my kitchen. At 41, Anna had come into my life right when I needed her most. After Frank died, I'd managed on my own for nearly 3 years before the arthritis in my knees worsened. Sarah had found Anna through a friend, a certified nursing assistant looking for live-in work after her divorce. What began as an employer-employee relationship quickly evolved into genuine friendship. Anna lived in the converted garage apartment, giving us both privacy but keeping her close enough for my occasional needs. She worked 3 days a week at the local clinic to supplement her income, but otherwise devoted herself to helping me maintain my independence. "You seemed upset yesterday," Anna said carefully, placing a plate of scrambled eggs and toast before me. "During your party," I sighed, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. I overheard something I wasn't meant to hear. Anna sat across from me, her kind eyes meeting mine. "Robert and Ellen?" I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. They want to sell the farm, put me in a nursing home. Anna's face darkened. Without discussing it with you first? That's exactly what I'd expect from Ellen, I finished for her. Robert has always followed her lead. What will you do? I took a sip of coffee, buying time to organize my thoughts. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I won't be bulldozed into leaving my home. Anna reached across the table, squeezing my hand. I'm here. Whatever you need. Her simple kindness brought tears to my eyes. Why was it that this woman, who had known me only 2 years, showed me more genuine care than my daughter-in-law of 15 years? Do you know what hurts the most? I whispered. It's not even about the farm, not really. It's that they're making decisions about my life without me, as if I'm already gone. You're still here, Anna said firmly. Still sharp as a tack. Still capable of making your own choices. I nodded, wiping away a stray tear. Yes, I am. And I think it's time I made some important ones. After breakfast, while Anna was doing the dishes, I thumbed through the small address book I kept by the telephone. Finding the number I needed, I picked up the receiver. Patricia Williams, please, I said when the receptionist answered. Tell her it's Michelle Caldwell calling. Patricia had been my friend since college and had become one of the most respected elder law attorneys in the county. If anyone could help me protect what was mine, it would be her. Michelle. Patricia's warm voice came through the line moments later. What a lovely surprise. I need your help, Pat, I said, getting straight to the point. Are you free? For lunch today? There's something important I need to discuss. Of course. Is everything all right? I glanced out the window at the farm that Frank and I had built together, the land we had loved, the home we had created for our family, the home that Ellen saw as nothing more than a money pit. No, I admitted, but with your help it will be. As I hung up the phone, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I had spent my entire adult life taking care of others, my husband, my children, this property. I had never once put myself first. Perhaps it was finally time to protect what mattered to me before it was too late. Anna, I called, my voice stronger than it had been in days. Would you mind driving me into town this afternoon? I have an appointment to keep. Patricia's office hadn't changed much in the 20 years she'd occupied it. The same oak desk, the same framed diplomas, the same view of the town square. She greeted me with a warm hug before settling into her leather chair. Now what's this all about, Michelle? She asked, her reading glasses perched on the edge of her nose. I took a deep breath and told her everything. The overheard conversation, Ellen's plans, Robert's apparent compliance. As I spoke, Patricia's expression shifted from concern to outrage. Without even consulting you? That's not just hurtful, it's deeply disrespectful, she said when I finished. I need to know my options, Pat. I won't be forced out of my home. Patricia nodded, her fingers steepled under her chin. Well, the good news is that the farm is still entirely in your name. Frank's will left everything to you outright. Yes, he always said I'd know what to do with it when the time came. So legally speaking, no one can make you leave or sell your property. Not Robert, not Ellen, not anyone. She paused, watching me carefully. But I sense there's more to this than just staying in your home. I gazed out the window at the town Frank and I had called home our entire adult lives. Main Street hadn't changed much. The hardware store was still owned by the Johnson family. The diner still served the best apple pie in the county, and the park still hosted the summer concert series every Saturday night. I want to make sure the farm goes to someone who will love it, I said finally. Someone who will care for it the way Frank and I did, not someone who sees it as nothing but a dollar sign. You could change your will, Patricia suggested gently. I shook my head. No, that's not enough. If I simply disinherit Robert and Ellen, they'll contest it. Besides, I need to ensure my security now while I'm still alive. Patricia leaned forward, her eyes twinkling with understanding. You have someone in mind for the farm, don't you? I thought of Anna, her gentle hands tending to my garden, her careful maintenance of the house, her genuine love for the land. How she'd told me once that she'd dreamed of having a little farm just like mine someday, a place where she could maybe start a small business growing organic vegetables. I do, I admitted, but I need to know if it's possible. Patricia reached for a legal pad. There are several options we could consider. A life estate would allow you to transfer ownership while retaining the right to live there for the remainder of your life. What would that mean exactly? It means you could transfer the title to someone else now, but you'd have the legal right to continue living there until you pass away or choose to leave. The new owner wouldn't be able to sell or make major changes without your consent during your lifetime. I felt a flutter of hope. And after I'm gone? Then the property would belong fully to them, without going through probate. It would be a completed gift, not subject to challenges from other potential heirs. I sat back, considering the implications. Robert will be furious. Patricia's expression softened. Michelle, you've spent your life caring for others. Frank, your children. Even this community through your years of teaching. Perhaps it's time to make decisions based on what you want. What will bring you peace? I nodded slowly, my mind already made up. I want to do it. Can we start the paperwork today? We can, but I'd like you to think about it for at least 48 hours. This is a significant decision. I've been thinking about it since last night, Pat. I won't change my mind. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right then. We'll need to have the property assessed for gift tax purposes, though you likely won't owe anything given the lifetime exemption amounts. We'll also need to draft the life estate deed. How long will it take? About 2 weeks to complete everything, properly. In the meantime, don't tell anyone about your plans, not even Anna. I raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because the minute Robert or Ellen get wind of this, they might try to intervene. Better to present them with a completed legal transaction than give them time to try to stop it. The thought of such secrecy felt foreign to me. I'd always believed in openness with my family. But then again, they hadn't exactly been honest with me. I understand, I said quietly. Patricia squeezed my hand. I know this is difficult, Michelle. But sometimes protecting yourself is the most important thing you can do. As Anna drove me home that afternoon, I watched the familiar landscape roll by. The Hendersons' dairy farm, the old covered bridge, the creek where Robert used to fish with his father. I'd always assumed this land would stay in my family for generations. Now I was preparing to give it to someone who wasn't blood, but who had shown me more genuine care than my own son. Everything okay? Anna asked, glancing at me. You're quiet. I smiled, patting her hand. Just thinking about the future. And what does that future look like? I gazed at the farmhouse coming into view, its white clapboard gleaming in the afternoon sun. For the first time since overhearing Ellen's plans, I felt a sense of peace. Different than I expected, I replied. But sometimes different can be good. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange haze of normalcy and secrecy. I went about my daily routines, tending to my small herb garden, reading on the porch, watching my favorite cooking shows, all while harboring the knowledge that I was fundamentally changing the future of the farm forever. Robert called twice, each conversation more strained than the last. He never mentioned the retirement home or selling the farm, but his questions about my health seemed loaded with ulterior motives. Mom, have you thought about making things easier on yourself? He asked during his Sunday call, maybe downsizing a bit. I'm quite comfortable here, I replied, my voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath. Anna helps with whatever I can't manage. A pause. You know, we can't rely on Anna forever. What if she decides to move on? The irony nearly made me laugh. If only he knew. I suppose I'd cross that bridge when I came to it, I said lightly. How are the kids? Ellen's visits increased too, always unannounced, always with a saccharine smile that never reached her eyes. She'd bring unnecessary groceries or small gifts, using them as pretexts to survey the house. This place is so much work, she commented, one afternoon, running a finger along a bookshelf and frowning at the dust. Wouldn't it be nice to live somewhere with staff to handle all this cleaning? I simply smiled and thanked her for the chocolates she'd brought. Chocolates that I knew contained nuts, which I was allergic to. She'd been my daughter-in-law for 15 years. Meanwhile, Patricia's office was working diligently behind the scenes. The property assessment came back higher than I'd expected, nearly $800,000 for the land and house combined. The market for rural properties within commuting distance of the city had skyrocketed in recent years. Are you sure about this? Patricia asked when I came in to review the paperwork. It's a substantial asset. More sure than ever, I replied. The way Ellen's been circling like a vulture only confirms I'm making the right decision. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, exactly 16 days after my birthday, Anna drove me into town for what she thought was a routine doctor's appointment. Instead, we went to Patricia's office. Why are we stopping here? Anna asked, confusion evident in her voice. I need you to come in with me, I said, my heart pounding. There's something important we need to discuss. Inside, Patricia was waiting with a folder of documents and a small cake with a single candle. What's going on? Anna looked between us, bewildered. I took her hand and guided her to a chair. Anna, you've been more than just a caregiver to me these past 2 years. You've been a friend, a confidant, and more family to me than some of my actual relatives. Her eyes widened. Michelle, what is this about? I nodded to Patricia, who pushed the folder forward. I'm transferring ownership of the farm to you, while retaining a life estate for myself. Anna's mouth fell open. What? No, I can't. This is your family home. Which is why I want someone I trust to have it, I explained, squeezing her hand. Someone who loves it as much as I do. Tears welled in Anna's eyes. But your son, won't he be upset? Robert and Ellen have their own plans. For the farm, I said, my voice hardening slightly. Plans that don't include me or respecting what the place means to me. Patricia gently explained the legal details, how Anna would become the owner, but I would retain the right to live there for the rest of my life. How after my passing, the farm would belong entirely to her, how this transaction was legal, binding, and virtually impossible to overturn. I don't know what to say, Anna whispered, tears streaming down her face. Say you'll accept, I urged. Say you'll keep loving the farm the way you already do. She looked at the documents, then back at me. You're sure? I've never been more certain of anything. With trembling hands, Anna signed her name next to mine. Patricia and her assistant served as witnesses, then notarized the documents. Congratulations, Patricia said, handing Anna a copy of the deed. You're now the owner of Willow Creek Farm. The drive home was quiet, both of us processing the enormity of what had just happened. I still can't believe it, Anna finally said as we turned onto the gravel driveway. I feel like I'm dreaming. I looked at the farmhouse, my home for over 40 years. The white paint Frank and I had applied ourselves, the blue shutters we'd chosen together, the maple tree we'd planted when Robert was born, now towering over the front yard. Nothing will change day to day, I assured her. I'm not going anywhere. She parked in front of the house and turned to me, her expression serious. When will you tell Robert? The question I'd been dreading. Soon. I need to find the right moment. But the right moment found me instead. As we stepped onto the porch, a familiar SUV pulled up behind Anna's car. Ellen emerged first, her face a mask of forced cheerfulness. Robert followed, carrying what looked like brochures. Mom, what a coincidence, Ellen called out, her voice too bright. "We were just stopping by to share some exciting news." I gripped Anna's arm, suddenly grateful for her steady presence. "What perfect timing," I replied, my voice surprisingly calm. "I have some exciting news too." The storm clouds were gathering and there was nowhere left to hide. "Why don't we all go inside?" I suggested, maintaining a composure I didn't entirely feel. "It seems we have things to discuss." Ellen's smile faltered slightly as she registered Anna's protective stance beside me. Robert clutched his brochures tighter, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Perfect," Ellen chirped, recovering quickly. "I brought some of those lemon cookies you like, Michelle." The lemon cookies I had never particularly cared for. Frank had been the one who loved them. 15 years, and she still knew so little about me. Anna helped me inside while Robert and Ellen followed, exchanging glances I pretended not to notice. In the living room, I settled into Frank's old leather armchair, the seat I always took when I needed to feel strong. "Tea, anyone?" Anna asked, her voice carefully neutral. "That would be lovely," I replied. "Ellen? Robert?" They declined, both, perching awkwardly on the edge of the sofa. Ellen placed a small bakery box on the coffee table, then nudged Robert, who cleared his throat. "Mom, we've been thinking a lot about your situation," he began, placing the brochures on the table beside the cookies. "After your stroke, we've been worried about you being out here alone." "I'm hardly alone," I pointed out. "Anna lives here." "Too?" Ellen's smile tightened. "Of course, and we're very grateful for Anna's help. But she has her own life, her own future to consider." Anna returned with my tea, her face expressionless. I could tell she was struggling not to respond to Ellen's dismissive tone. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked, although I already knew. Robert pushed one of the brochures toward me. "Cedar Grove. It's not just a retirement home, Mom. It's a community. There are activities, outings, people your own age." I didn't touch the brochure. "And the farm?" Ellen jumped in, her voice. "Honey sweet. That's the wonderful part. The property values in this area have skyrocketed. The money from the sale would more than cover your care for years to come. With plenty left over, I imagine," I remarked dryly. Robert shifted uncomfortably. "This isn't about money, Mom. It's about what's best for you." "And who decides what's best for me?" I asked quietly. Ellen leaned forward, her facade of patience wearing thin. "Michelle, be reasonable. You can't manage this place anymore. The stairs are becoming a hazard. What if you fall when no one's around?" "I understand your concerns," I said, taking a deliberate sip of tea. "But I have no intention of leaving my home." Ellen's smile vanished entirely. "This isn't just about what you want. It's about what's practical." "Practical for whom?" I challenged. The tension in the room thickened. Robert looked increasingly uncomfortable, caught between his wife's agenda and his mother's resistance. "Mom, please," he began. "We're trying to help." By going behind my back? The words slipped out before I could stop them. By discussing putting me in a home without even consulting me first? Robert's face paled. "What are you talking about?" "Your birthday," Anna said quietly from where she stood near the doorway. "Michelle, overheard you both talking in the study." Ellen's expression hardened, her pretense dropping completely. "You were eavesdropping? That's just perfect." "I was walking to the bathroom," I replied evenly. "But I heard enough to know you've been planning this for some time." Robert at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Mom, it wasn't like that. We were just discussing options." "No," Ellen interjected, her patience clearly exhausted. "Your mother needs to face reality. She can't stay here. It's not safe. It's not practical. And frankly, it's selfish to expect everyone else to arrange their lives around her stubbornness." The room fell silent. Even Robert seemed shocked by her bluntness. "Ellen," he warned. But she was beyond caution now. No, Robert, I'm tired of tiptoeing around this. Your mother has this fantasy that she can stay here forever, but it's not sustainable. The property needs constant maintenance. Her medical needs are increasing, and we can't keep driving out here every time there's a problem. We? I echoed. When was the last time you personally helped with anything around here, Ellen? Her cheeks flushed. That's not the point. Actually, I think it's exactly the point, I countered, my voice steady despite my racing heart. This isn't about my well-being, it's about what's convenient for you. Ellen stood abruptly. Fine. Since we're being honest, yes. I'm tired of this farm eating up our resources. I'm tired of your son feeling guilty because he can't be here every minute. I'm tired of this property sitting here, worth a small fortune, while we struggle, with mortgage payments and college tuition. Ellen! Robert exclaimed, mortified. But she wasn't finished. She turned to Anna, her expression contemptuous. And I'm tired of paid help acting like family. You're an employee, not a daughter. Anna flinched as if slapped, but held her ground. I set my teacup down with deliberate care. I think it's time for both of you to leave. Mom, please. Robert began, but I raised my hand, silencing him. Not until we've settled this, Ellen insisted. We brought the preliminary sale paperwork. The real estate agent says we could list immediately. She reached into her purse and withdrew a folder, slapping it on the table with triumphant finality. All you need to do is sign. The room went still. Robert looked from his wife to me, clearly torn. Anna moved closer to my chair, a silent sentinel. Took a deep breath, steadying myself for what was to come. That won't be possible, I said softly. Ellen's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I exchanged a glance with Anna, who nodded almost imperceptibly. The moment of truth had arrived, far sooner than I'd anticipated, but perhaps it was better this way. Clean. Final. I can't sell the farm, I explained, my voice gaining strength with each word. Because as of this afternoon, I no longer own it. The silence that followed my statement was absolute. Ellen's face froze, her expression suspended between confusion and disbelief. Robert blinked rapidly as if he hadn't quite heard me correctly. What did you just say? Ellen finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. I no longer own the farm, I repeated, my voice steadier than I ever thought possible. I've transferred the property to Anna while retaining a life estate for myself. Ellen's face contorted with rage. That's not possible. You can't do that. I assure you it's quite possible and quite legal, I replied. The paperwork was finalized this afternoon. Robert stood up so quickly that the brochures scattered across the floor. Mom, this is insane. You can't just give away our family home. Your family home? I echoed, raising an eyebrow. The home you were planning to sell out from under me? That's different, Ellen sputtered. We were thinking of your welfare. No, I said quietly. You were thinking of your bank account. Ellen turned on Anna, her face twisted with fury. You manipulated her. You took advantage of a vulnerable old woman. We'll sue you for every penny. That's enough, I cut in, my voice sharp. Anna knew nothing about this until today. This was my decision, made with sound mind and the counsel of my attorney. Robert sank back onto the sofa, his face ashen. Why, Mom? Why would you do this to us? The genuine hurt in his voice almost broke my resolve. Almost. I didn't do this to you, Robert. I did this for me, and for the farm your father and I built. Together. I leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. This place was never just an asset to us. It was our life's work, our dream. Your father wanted it preserved, not liquidated for cash. You could have talked to us. Robert protested weakly. The way you talked to me? Planning my institutionalization behind my back? He had no answer for that. Ellen was pacing now, practically vibrating with rage. This won't stand. We'll contest it. You're not in your right mind, clearly, after the stroke. My doctor can attest to my complete mental competence, I interrupted calmly. As can Patricia Williams, who handled the legal work. The transfer is valid and binding. Anna stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. Michelle has the right to live here for the rest of her life. Nothing will change for her. I'll continue to care for her and for the property, just as I have been. Ellen rounded on her with venom. You think you've won, don't you? Weaseled your way into an inheritance that should have been my husband's? Anna didn't flinch. This was never about winning. It's about respecting Michelle's wishes and preserving what matters to her. Robert stood, again pulling Ellen back. We should go, he muttered. We need to think. There's nothing to think about, Ellen snapped. We're calling a lawyer tonight. You're welcome to do that, I said. But I suggest you first read Section 1052 of the State Property Code regarding life estates and completed gifts. It might save you some money. Ellen snatched up her purse, her movements jerky with suppressed rage. She stormed out without another word, the front door slamming behind her. Robert lingered, looking lost. Mom, I know you meant well in your way, I said, suddenly tired. But you should have talked to me. You should have asked what I wanted. He shook his head slowly. I don't even know what to say. There's nothing to say right now. Go home. Process this. When you're ready to talk, really talk, I'll be here. After a moment's hesitation, he followed his wife, the screen door closing softly behind him. Anna and I sat in silence, listening to the car start up and crunch down the gravel driveway. When the sound faded, she turned to me, tears in her eyes. Are you okay? I exhaled slowly, feeling oddly light. Better than I've been in a long time. They'll be back, you know. Ellen won't let this go easily. I nodded. I know. But there's nothing she can do, not legally. Patricia made sure of that. The next few days passed in a strange calm. Robert called once, his voice subdued, asking if we could talk when things settled down. Ellen, predictably, followed through on her threat to consult an attorney, who apparently told her exactly what Patricia had warned. The transfer was legal and virtually uncontestable. A week later, as Anna and I were enjoying morning coffee on the porch, a familiar car pulled up. To my surprise, it wasn't Robert's SUV, but my daughter Sarah's rental car. She emerged with her teenage son in tow, waving brightly. Surprise visit, she called, hurrying up the steps to embrace me. I heard there was some excitement around here. News travels fast, I remarked, hugging her tightly. Robert called me, she admitted. He was upset. I imagine so. Sarah settled into the rocking chair beside me, while her son wandered off to explore the old treehouse. He told me what you did, with the farm. I studied her face, searching for judgment or reproach, but found only thoughtful consideration. And what do you think? I asked cautiously. She smiled, reaching for my hand. I think it's your farm, and your life. And I think Dad would approve. Relief washed over me. You're not angry? Mom, I moved to Oregon years ago. I have no claim on this place, emotional or otherwise. She glanced at Anna, who was discreetly giving us privacy. And from what I've seen, you couldn't have chosen a better guardian for Dad's legacy. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you for understanding. Besides, she added with a wry smile, the look on Ellen's face must have been priceless. We both laughed, the tension dissolving. Later that evening, after Sarah and her son had settled into the guest rooms, Anna found me in Frank's study, looking through old photo albums. A good day? She asked, sitting beside me. A very good day, I agreed. Michelle? She began hesitantly. I want you to know that nothing has to change. This is still your home, your farm. I closed the album gently. Not just mine anymore. Ours. She smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I was thinking, if you're open to it, we could use part of the eastern field for an organic vegetable garden. Maybe sell at the farmer's market in town. I'd like that, I said warmly. Frank always said that land was perfect for vegetables. As we sat there, planning our future, I felt Frank's presence all around us, not in a ghostly way, but in the solid reality of the home we'd built, the land we'd tended, the love we'd cultivated. I knew he would approve of what I'd done. The farm would go on, cherished and cared for, and I would spend my remaining years in the home I loved, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for me, not for what I could give them, but for who I was. In the end, that was the truest inheritance of all.